One thing we've seen an absolute abundance of in the last year or so with COVID is people buying stuff. People, individuals buying things to help pass the time because we're locked down or we've been locked down. That's services such as Netflix and Disney Plus. It could be exercise bikes and an exercise material so that we can keep fit at home because the gyms are shut, but we're told that if we're healthier, our bodies can cope with COVID more successfully. Well, the same is for businesses as well. Businesses are now, particularly in the second half of last year, have been looking to retool and change things so they can cope with what they class as the new norm. Those of you that have followed my content know that we've spoke a hell of a lot about JD Sports of late, and actually JD Sports have made yet another acquisition. You'll recall just over a month ago that they raised £465 million. That was just after they bought Downtown Locker Room, DTLR, on the east coast of America. And that was just after they had bought Shoe Palace on the west coast. The reason they were doing this was they were complementing the Finish Line exposure they already have, and these were deeply entrenched in communities where they feel that they didn't have enough exposure to on the east and the west coast. Now, we knew that they couldn't do anything of size in the UK because that Foot Asylum deal was actually initially blocked by the competition authorities because of their they were claiming they have too much market share, but they got a reprieve from a judge. So a deal in Europe did make sense. So they have bought a 60% stake in a company called MIG, M-I-G. It's based in Poland. It stands for Marketing Investment Group, and this 60% stake has been bought from two founding brothers. So what are they getting for this stake? 410 stores spread across 9 countries across Central and Eastern Europe. They don't only get the stores, they get the websites, the online business associated with this. The fascias are Sizeer, S-I-Z-E-E-R, as well as 50 style, plus a handful of Umbro and Timberland stores that they've obviously negotiated the ability to sell those products in those regions. We don't know how much they've paid for it because actually it wasn't big enough for them to have to tell us. To give you an idea, the sales in 2020 or revenues for MIG was the equivalent of about £200 million. If we look at JD Group as a whole, that includes Europe and the rest of the world and US, etc. Their revenues for 2020 were just over £6.1 billion. So on the grand scheme of things, 200 million is a lot, but it's actually a relatively small bolt-on deal. Another reason why it makes sense for them to be expanding in Europe is because as it stands at the moment, they only have one warehouse facility in Belgium. It's 80,000 square feet, and it's not enough for them to be able to service their existing stores that they have in the region. What they have to be doing is shipping from Asia to the UK, and then that stuff, when it's unloaded, the stuff that's earmarked for the EU is then onward shipped or freighted somehow into the EU, and that's incurring additional costs for Brexit related tariffs. So I would expect that there's either some scope for them to be able to have more warehouse facilities through this deal, but I would also, with their aspirations and they're continuing to grow in the region, I would definitely expect to see some more acquisitions or building of warehouse facilities and some hubs so that they can more successfully ship directly to the EU and then distribute within there so they don't have to incur additional tariffs. So what do you think about this deal? Is JD Sports getting even bigger than they already are? Do you know these existing brands or these existing retailers that they've bought? Do they need a rebrand, a refresh? Are JD Sports getting too big or even bigger? Were they already too big in the first place? What we do know is that the brands want a couple of big retailers at the top table with them, and that's JD and Foot Locker particularly. And we know that some of the moves from these brands to push out some of the smaller retailers and independent retailers particularly is just causing these big guys to hoover up even more businesses, etc. So it's almost being forced by the brands in them wanting to deal with less and less retailers. That's it. Be interesting to know your thoughts. Please make sure that you are following the Sneakonomist, Andy Wilson, on Instagram. Also, please make sure that you are following at Full Frame Kicks on Instagram, and that you are following Full Frame Kicks on YouTube, where a lot of my content is dropping. Make sure that you are liking, forwarding, have your alerts tagged so that you know when stuff is dropping straight away. You get the up-to-date details. I'll see you soon.